and welcome to the conversation. I'm Newberry Toe. The conversation is where we talk about different events going on in the city of Brockton and the greater Brockton area. We're going to be doing a few different remote podcasts. We'll be going to the Henry Fennerman Football Clinic and a few other great things. But today we're gonna talk to a candidate for council at large, and we're going to talk about some of the issues that are important to him and are important to the community. So we're joined with Ray Henningson, and also joined with Megan, who is the communications director. What's your official title?
My official title is campaign director. So it's nice to be able to be a young person and give my opinion in this campaign.
Absolutely, that's awesome. Just getting involved early is so important. I mean, just being aware of what's going on. And I'm joined with the candidate for council at large, Ray Henningson. Ray, first and foremost, thank you for being a part of this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So, for the people who don't know you, we're just gonna have a conversation, just kind of talking, and and just really talk about some issues that are really important. But for people who don't know you, who the heck is Ray Henningson?
Well, let's see. Ray Henningson moved to Brockton in 1976 when I was 6 years old. I've lived here pretty much all my life. I grew up on the east side. I went to Ashfield East Junior High when it was a junior high, and then I went to Cardinal Spellman and graduated there in 1988. I moved out of Brockton in the the early 90s, and then moved back to Brockton when my wife became pregnant, and we decided to relocate back here to be closer to my parents, who still live here in the same house that they were at in 1976. So I consider myself a lifelong resident of the city. I am actively involved. I was on the school committee for one term. I serve on the Brockton NAACP as one of the vice presidents. I was a treasurer for the Frederick Douglass Neighborhood Association, as well as a board of director for Brockton Day Nursery. So I try to keep active in the community. I also serve on the Conservation Commission currently for the city of Brockton.
So you mentioned that you're part of the school committee, and you decided to run again for school committee, and was not fortunate enough to win that one, but you decided to run for at large. Talk about the decision of why to run for at large after running for school committee.
Sure. So, after running for school committee and then not successfully winning the next term, I decided that I wanted to not take my ball and go home, that I want to continue to stay active. And I believe that my passion that I had in the school committee, I can parlay into, for the city of Brockton and its residents. And, being a resident myself, a taxpayer, having family and friends here, I recognize the issues that we have in the city, and that I feel that my 25 years experience as a financial professional can, help develop the city in a forward fashion.
Now, that decision of running for any elected office impacts the family. I mean, how'd you guys come about making that decision? 'Cause I know it's not just your decision; it's a whole family's decision.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily an easy decision to come to, but slowly but surely we all got on board, and it's definitely showed us a lot about, I don't know, I think it's definitely brought us closer together as a family, because it offers us opportunities to hang out and be able to, hold signs together and support my dad. And it definitely made us realize that my dad is working so hard for kids like us. So it's really nice to see that, and I don't know, it definitely brought us together.
But of course, you first have to get the approval of what I call the CEO of the family, and that is my wife. So once she gave the approval, she knows what's involved, and it's very difficult for any family that goes this, for any candidate who decides to run. It takes a lot away from the family. I miss events. I missed my son's concert the other day because I had an event at the Conservation Commission. So I have a duty to that as well, and I understand that it's difficult to be a parent and a role model and to be on the various boards and commissions, but it's important that we give back to our community as well.
Absolutely. I mean, definitely, and that's definitely what you're doing. Even with all the boards and commissions and volunteer work that you've done, you definitely are part of the community. Let's actually talk about your actual platform in terms of running for office. I mean, you mentioned a few things that you want to get done online and everything on your website. Let's talk about a few of those. Well, I mean, what's kind of priority 1, 2, and 3, or some issues you really want to tackle if you get into office?
Well, one of the things that we have is we have an issue right now with we have buildings that are falling apart. We need a 20-year capital improvement plan. We need to develop something that will allow us to look 20 years in the future and allow us to appropriately budget for these things. Right now, we have fire stations falling apart. We have a police station that's literally falling apart. We don't have 21st century tools for our fire department, our police department, our first responders. Our schools are aging and they're falling apart. And we have, leaky roofs. We have schools that, are falling apart left and right. We need to do that, and that requires money. So the other part of that is to encourage more businesses to come into the city, give us a more robust tax base so we can actually pay for these things. And that's one of the things that I'll do is I'll bring my experience in the business community to develop businesses to come in here, increase the tax base, so we don't have to keep going back to the taxpayers to ask for more and more every single time.
So let's talk about the work you've done in the private sector, your full time, and then the work you've done in the school committee. How is that experience combined going to separate you from the rest of the candidates?
I think the fact that I'm pretty much the only candidate that I know of that is currently running that has the financial experience that I have. I'm the current vice president, controller of a construction company. I've been doing accounting for 25 plus years, so there really is no other candidate that has that financial experience to deal with budgets on the level that I've dealt. I've worked for small companies, I've worked for billion-dollar companies that hire 5 people and companies that have 10,000 people. So I understand the processes of getting funding and looking for creative ways to manage budgets, hire people, and deal with those negotiations on contracts and various issues like that.
So for people who don't understand, the school committee, city council, and there's the mayor, of course. What is the relationship in the role of a city councilor? Because sometimes, people say, we want to bring more police, and, a city council can necessarily hire a police officer or hire a chief or what have you. What's the role of a city councilor, and how do you plan on working with the mayor in that role?
Well, you want to work, obviously, whoever's in that job of mayor, you want to work in a collaborative and cohesive way to find common ground. Even if you disagree, there's ways to do things and do things in a civil manner. The council doesn't hire, as you said. The council's job is basically to approve the budget that the mayor submits, and then the legislative board of the council. So what you do is you work with the mayor and the administration. He's the one that would hire the police, but you give them the budgetary tools. You work with the mayor and give them those opportunities to hire additional staff. We definitely need more police. But I also think we need more police that are more representative of our community. We need more minority police officers. We need to encourage more minority police officers and to join. You did a documentary which was absolutely fantastic, and one of the things that the police chief in Boston said was, people need to step up if they want to make an impact in their community. They need to step up and apply for these jobs, and then we can start to make more impacts in the community policing. But we need to do a lot of that stuff, and we need to work collaboratively with the mayor and come up with solutions that will work for all the residents, not just a select few.
What drives you to do this stuff? City council, you're definitely not, going to retire off the money of it,
No.
So, but what drives you to run for office, run for city council? What's the passion there?
The passion is giving back to the community. I have children, I see how they're growing up. I see other children, and I want better for my community. I want better for Brockton. I've done a lot of research into the history of Brockton and how great it was in its heyday, and it's slid backwards, and I believe we're at the cusp of a renaissance. I believe we're really there. We're so close to a renaissance period again, where we can bring manufacturing back, high-tech jobs, we can bring in good quality businesses that will provide better jobs for our residents, and we can bring the city back to its former heyday. And I believe that will, better our educational opportunities, better schools, better everything, and decrease crime too. It's a magical effect when you have more education, more opportunities for people, and especially for our youth. There's not a lot of opportunities in the city of Brockton right now for our youth to propel themselves forward.
How are you going to reflect the values of the increasing diversity of the city? I see that you're in a lot of different groups. You involve the Latino Association. Am I getting that name right?
Yep, the Latin Women's Association, Brockton.
NAACP and amongst different others. How are you able to? This is a very diverse place with the H community, Cape Verdean community, Hispanic community, go on and on. How are you going to reflect their values when you're on the council?
Well, the most important thing is to sit with them. The most important thing is to meet with them every single time you get, to listen to their concerns and address those concerns. I mean, you can't just sit in a building and ignore the residents. You got to be out there on the street. You got to be discussing it. You can't decide what to do with the homeless population if you don't meet with the homeless. You can't, make these decisions in a silo mentality. You have to actually be out there and talk with the residents and talk with what their needs are.
Meg, I'm going to put you on the spot here. We talked about Ray, the volunteer. Mm-hmm. We talked about the candidate, the elected official with the school committee. How about the person? How about the father?
Well,
oh boy.
So my father, he has been the most supportive figure in my life for the past 21 years. He really has pushed me in any small dream or desire that I've had. He's always encouraged it. He's always, no matter what a price or whatever price tag you want to put on it, he's always been the first one to step up, put that down, and invest in my future. And it really, I think it has paid off. I mean, I wouldn't like, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I definitely
toot your own horn.
I feel really set up in life, and I feel at a really secure place in my life. Even though I'm only 21 years old, I'm really not. But my dad has helped me every step of the way. So to see his investment in my life and my brother's life, I know he cares so much for the youth, especially the children of Brockton. So I would love to see it benefit everybody, especially, I mean, I don't know, I'm growing up, my brother's growing up, and my dad still has so much to give and so much that he wants to make improvements on. So it's really nice to see that, I don't know, he wants to benefit the youth of Brockton. And yeah, I mean, as you can tell from his speech, he's a very qualified individual. He spent a lot of time and he's worked through the ranks to get up to where he is today. So I think that shows and speaks a lot for his character.
I think it's huge. I mean, just we talk so much about politics, and it's about attacking personalities and everything, but we need to understand is that these politicians and people running are people first.
Yeah.
They're people first. And all the times, even when I'm doing my documentary work, we see a person on the news, and then when you actually go and talk to him or her, like, wow, they're just another person with feelings too, and they have a family and everything. So that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Downtown.
Yeah,
everyone talks about downtown, and it seems like it's a never-ending topic. About how do you make downtown where it's supposed to be, back to a place where it's a humming place where people want to go rather than run out of there at 4:30 and it's kind of a ghost town. How do we turn around downtown? Is it two-way traffic? How do we start turning the corner? It looks like it's getting there, but how do we continue that train rolling?
Well, interestingly enough, I'm not sold on the two-way traffic idea. I don't think that necessarily plays into whether or not something is successful. I mean, Providence, Rhode Island is very successful in their downtown area, and they don't have two-way traffic. Anybody who travels down Providence knows take the wrong road, now you got to drive around in a big circle. But that doesn't stop people from going. They don't turn around and head back on the highway. They actually continue to find their way, get in a parking garage, and do their business. I think what's important is to develop what's going on in other parts of the state, including Boston right now. You'll see mixed-use developments in Jamaica Plain, in Roxbury. I work in West Roxbury, and what I'm seeing right now is a lot of older triple-deckers being turned into apartments and storefronts on the bottom half, and just a revitalization of that area. I think that's the newer model that's starting to really pay off in those communities, especially for those communities. And what you're finding is the rents are going up because more people want to move there, more people want to be there, and the services are there for them. There's restaurants, there's everything to do there. So I think it has to be a grand scheme of things. You have to have parking, you have to have restaurants, you have to have places and people to go to. But I also want to caution that we have to be very careful not to forget the other parts of the city. I don't want to forget the other parts of the city. I live in Ward 7. My parents live in Ward 6. Those wards need attention too. So it's not just about downtown. It's about expanding opportunities for everybody, making sure our schools are good and quality schools, making sure our roads are accessible for handicapped people who live on the older, sections of Brockton, not just downtown. And that's, one of the things that I won't just focus on one part of the city. I'm going to focus on all parts of the city.
A big thing that was kind of controversial in the last few weeks. It looks like it's the final decision was made, but was Sanctuary City, and there's a lot of debate around it on both sides and legitimate arguments and concerns. Just what are your thoughts about that? It seems like it's kind of solved itself already. Just what are your thoughts about that on the actual proposed ordinance and kind of going forward? Is there anything different you would have done if you are kind of in that position, developing the ordinance for quote unquote sanctuary city? The controversy is it's not a sanctuary city. Some people feel it is a sanctuary city ordinance.
The ordinance that was presented, in my opinion, had some flaws in it, and that's why I would have voted no on that proposed ordinance. One of the parts of the ordinance required the school department to act in a certain way. Well, the city really doesn't have the authority to dictate how the school department acts, and vice versa. The school committee doesn't run the city, and the city doesn't run the school committee. So that's really a school committee function. The other part was there was a section in there that would prevent police from taking action in certain circumstances, and that would hamper our police department's ability to do the things they need to do to make sure all of our residents are protected. I believe the heart was in the right place, but I believe this is a state issue. This is a national issue of protection for all people, whether they're undocumented or whatever. If you have an instance, if you have a lady who is abused physically and she lives in Brockton, we're saying she'll be protected here, but not when she's in Avon. I don't think that that's right. I think she should be protected everywhere in the state. Same thing as if you have an arrest in the city of Brockton, they're brought to the Plymouth County House of Corrections. Plymouth County doesn't have to follow the city law. So, and then when you get to court, the court system doesn't necessarily have to follow those same rules. So because those aren't codified, I think that's where you get your problem, and that's the problem I have with the ordinance, is it doesn't work to really do what it's intended to do, and that's to protect victims of violence and being able to come out of the shadows and say to the police, hey, this has happened to me in my community or whatever. So I think the best thing to do is try to revamp that and try to work with our police department, with our sheriff's department, and find something that works for all parties involved. And is that possible? I don't know. But we have to try. And if we don't try, we'll never know if we can succeed or not. But that's the thing I'm going to do, is sit down with these parties and work to solve these problems, because these problems aren't going away.
Yeah,
exactly. These are problems, and it's not just one community; it's in all communities. And everybody should feel safe, and especially our younger generation, they should feel safe in their schools and not have to worry about their parents being ripped out of their homes and deported or whatever. We have a broken immigration system, and we have to deal with that. But that's a national and a state level issue, not a local issue.
A lot of times, it's brought up every year during the election, and Boston has full-time city councilors. Quincy has city councilors that are paid a lot higher than they're brought to city councilors. And a lot of people think it's a full-time position. Should a city council be a full-time position, and how do you balance that? Working full-time, working for the council, and you say you want to bring businesses to the city. How would you be able to balance that, with your career?
It's not easy. I'm very fortunate that my career allows me the flexibility to be home quicker than most people in my position. I work for a company. I get there at 8:30, and I'm out at the door by 4:30. I'm home by 5:30. So it's a luxury that a lot of people who work in Boston don't have necessarily. You just try to find a balance. I mean, it's not always easy, but I've been able to do it successfully now. I'm involved with so many of these organizations that I've been able to do this and not take away from the responsibility of each one of those organizations and my family at the same time. It's something that you work on. As far as full-time, I don't necessarily think you need a full-time city council here. We're not big enough yet to be that. I think Boston absolutely needs that. You have millions of people in Boston as opposed to 100,000 people here. So there's definitely a difference. I think they're paid more than adequately I'm not doing this for the $15,000 a year. As a matter of fact, half of it's probably going to go back into the system anyway. When I was paid on the school committee, the amount of about $5,000, I probably donated that and more to places like Donors Choose and various organizations within the community. So I didn't do it for the money. I just did it because I wanted to give back.
The mayor talked about, you mentioned before the beginning of the podcast, as the police department. It's a faulty building. It needs some work, and he is pushing, for a new building. How do you see that happening? There are talks about maybe putting fire and police together and things like that. I know a few of the communities have that. Is that something even feasible? With the kind of financial restraints that Brockton has, is that even a possibility? I don't know everyone wants it, but is it a pipe dream?
I think it's possible. I think anything is realistically possible. I think you just have to do a little bit more due diligence in the process. I think you really have to look and see what the true costs are going to be and then come to a decision. Do you do two separate? Do you just rehab the existing facilities? I would love to see a 21st century public safety complex, but I want to go one step further. I want to add a youth component to that public safety complex. I believe that one of the first things we need to do is break down those barriers between police and our youth. And one way to do that is you're in the same building, you're integrating with each other on a more of a daily basis. You get to understand that police officers are not the enemy. Police officers they're just like everybody else. They have kids, they have wives or husbands and everything else. And, I think by breaking down those barriers, you see that there's a human component to that. And, we have an officer, Rosie Brown, who does a basketball tournament every year with the police department and youth. And it's very successful. I think we do that on a bigger scale, and you have a youth center in conjunction with the safety complex, and I think it provides even a greater bang for your buck.
Would that be something like, for example, for the schools, there are times where the state would put in 80%, the city would put in 20%. Is that kind of same thing for the police department, or is that something different where we got to foot most of the bill?
You have to foot most of the bill. There really is no mass school building authority entity like there is for the schools. You can probably look for various grants to do part of the construction. You can reach out to some of the larger construction companies and see, what they're willing to do. We had an opportunity a long time ago. Now it's Vincente's Market. That was one of the places we were going to locate a police station. We lost that opportunity because we never jumped on it when we had the chance. We have now an opportunity possibly for the CSX rail yard. That would be a good location for something, because you need a centralized location for a safety complex that can reach various parts of the city. And it's a piece of land that's really not developable for people per se, because it's been contaminated, the soil. Or we take the CSX rail yard, and another option that I was thinking of is make a giant solar farm out of it and bring more solar energy into our community and reduce our costs. Braintree has their own electric light department, for instance. Maybe we can do something like that. We'll never know if we don't research it and do the due diligence to see what these costs are going to be and how we can maximize this. And, are there grants out there we can get and reduce the cost? I think the current cost is probably way too high. I think $88 million is a pie in the sky idea. I think probably 30 to 50 is more realistic. I think 80 is way out of our ability to do. If we were Weston or Wellesley, maybe, but we just don't have that tax base. We have to build the tax base first that can support it.
Got about 7 minutes left or so I want to give you a chance to kind of wrap up. But where is the city going? Are we heading in the right direction? Are we going the wrong direction? Where do you think the city is going, and how would you change it if you think it's going in the direction that it shouldn't be going?
I think we're going in, as far as the direction that we're currently going, I think we are going in the right direction. Mayor Carpenter mentioned that we are under construction, and we see a lot new construction coming up. We have a new rooftop restaurant that's being proposed in downtown. We're seeing more residences coming up, mixed-use facilities. We're seeing a lot more investment in the city that we never saw before. I think that's great. That's fantastic. The opposite side of that is we need to address the problem in the room with that is we'll have more people. That'll need more services. We'll have more kids that'll need more classrooms. So we need to address those things in conjunction with all of this positive stuff. We have to address the crime problem. We need more officers on the street. We're down still probably 50 officers compared to other communities of lesser size. We need to address that, but we need to, as I said before, have a more diverse community. I'd like to see our next police chief be a police chief of color. I'd like to see our next superintendent be a superintendent of color. I'd like to see more diversity in our higher positions that more reflect, the community at large. But I think we're moving in that direction, and I think we'll get there.
Qualified diversity.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and what's funny is a lot of people always, when you say that, the first thing they say is, "Well, qualified." And I don't think I've ever really heard anybody ever say, "I don't want anybody qualified. I want the best candidate, no matter who they are." But I think that we do a disservice if we don't go out and look for diversity. I questioned the superintendent one time and said, "What have we done to increase the teacher diversity?" "Oh, we went down to traditional black colleges, and it just never panned out." And I said, "Well, when did you do that?" "A decade ago." "You never went back?" "No." And there's our problem. Right. We don't go. We don't advertise in the Bay State Banner, the largest African American publication in the state. There's things we can do to make the situation better and work towards that goal, and we just have to get that person to do that. One of the things I'm trying to still do is put a more diverse crosswalks in the city. I was trying to get a gay pride flag printed on the crosswalks, and I was denied by the traffic commission. They said the paint was slippery, which is funny because all across the country they're putting these crosswalks in and nobody's following and whatever. So we have to get rid of that mentality. We have to move the city forward, and sometimes we just got to get rid of the old guard and bring in new, fresh ideas.
That's a good. I mean, speaking as a teacher, I think even when I was in high school, and I've had great teachers, all colors, all races, but I did have one black teacher, and it did change. It did change my perspective on different things that, like anything. If you have females have different perspectives on things than males do. There's certain things I see that my sisters see completely different. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, I didn't notice that. So I think that's important.
And one of the things that I did was I don't just talk about it. I'm just not some politician who just speaks in these platitudes and everything. I put my money where my mouth is. So what I've been doing the last 3 years, I've had a very small, it's not a huge, it's a $200 scholarship to any young man or woman from a 4-year.
$200, that's a bunch of books.
Hey, it's books or whatever.
Yep.
It may be the difference. Who's going to enter a 4-year institution in the field of teaching? So, we have to put our money where our mouth is. If we want diversity, we have to do something about it. We can't just say, "Oh, we want this." What are you going to do about it? And, I think that at least I'm starting the conversation, and what I would do is challenge all of our politicians, all of our community leaders. Don't just sit back and complain about it. What are you going to do to fix the problem? Everybody can complain. I can complain that I don't like green beans. What am I going to do about it if my wife keeps feeding me green beans? Maybe I'll just make sure I throw the green beans out.
While they're not looking. Yeah. We got 2 minutes left. Just wrap up. Just talk about what separates you from the rest of the candidates, and why do you want to be, and why does Brockton should vote for you as the next city council at large? And when is the primary? Because it's going to be a primary, right?
Primary probably will be September 17th. And the election is November 7th, I think.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
So it'll be a Tuesday, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's always on Tuesday. November 5th.
Okay, November 5th.
Yeah, first Tuesday of every month would be the election in November. But I would say that, take a good hard look at me. You can go to rayforbrockton.com. You can see my Facebook page. You can, I'll be hitting the various wards with, advertisements, door knockers. Always feel free to, email me at rhenningsonward7@gmail.com. Or you can call me at 508-208-6747. And always, I'm one of these honest politicians, if you will. I don't like to say I'm a politician. I'm a dad. I'm a business person, and I'll tell you, one of the things that separates me is I'm, like I said, the only candidate with 25 plus years of financial experience in the accounting, in the finance field. I'm not an attorney. We already have 2 attorneys currently on the city council. We sure as heck don't need any more attorneys. We do need accountants. We do need financial professionals who actually run businesses, who understand the issues of businesses, who understand how to bring businesses in, read budgets, and be creative in the way that they manage those budgets. And, I think if people take a good hard look at those qualifications, I think that's what we need to propel the city forward. Less, the old world, I can just, spin whatever as a politician. I'm the real deal, and I'm going to work to fix the city of Brockton and bring us in forward, not backward. And I have a saying, I say, let's put Brockton back to work.
All right, let's go to work.
Yeah.
Let's go to work. Megan, I want to thank you for joining us. Ray, I want to thank you for joining us. Wish you the best luck in the campaign. I personally just want to say thank you for all you've done to help the documentary tour and Protect, Serve, and Care. You're one of the executive producers on it, along with Mayor Waldron, Kenny Montero, Ron Ratto, my cousin, for full disclosure, Ron Ratto. But you've done a lot to help our campaign in terms of increasing awareness between police and minorities. So I just want to say thank you for that.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure. It's a great documentary. It's important to get everybody to watch this and to understand it's not an us versus them. It's a way that we can try to bridge the gap. And one of the things I appreciate about you is the fact that you don't take sides. You present the information and let the public decide to make up their mind.
Or I think the job of the media, I think we've kind of gotten away from it sometimes.
Yeah.
Is we watch one channel, we put on Fox, we put on CNN. We live in 2 different worlds.
Yep.
You put on CNN, you put on MSNBC, it's 2 different worlds. And why don't we just go to just report the facts and let the viewers make a decision on what to do, and the listeners. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you guys for joining us for this podcast. We'll be doing plenty more during the summertime. Our next one will be actually at the Henry Fenovan Football Clinic. That's going to be June 22nd. So look forward to being over there and seeing a lot of great people. Thank you guys, and good luck on the campaign.
Thank you.